What is going on, guys? It's obviously Jordan here, back again in the perpetually messy room, making another video. I actually woke up today with a cold, so allow my voice. But yeah, let's get straight into it. So this week, well, today I should say, 'cause I want to get 2 videos out this week. But for today's video, the last video I put out was the beginning of the internship game series, and Thursday, Friday, so like 3 and 4 days ago, I finished my Bank of America Assessment Center, which we'll talk about, if not today, in the next video. But for today's video, people message me a lot saying I want to hear specifics about your current CV, your current cover letter, because even though, as I mentioned in the last video, I've got the last year's collection, season one's collection of the specific in-depth analysis of my CV and my cover letter, I think people wanted a more recent update, a more current, I suppose, display of my thoughts and opinions and what I've got here in front of me. So going straight into it, like I'm going to go into my computer screen now so you can see exactly what I'm doing. And the first thing we've got is my CV, of course. So the CV, like, not much has changed, to be fair, with my CV. I changed the font because I just wanted a more substantial change. I felt like it had been, it wasn't Times New Roman. I think it might have been like Arial. The one, like, there was a period where Microsoft Word was using Arial or something else. So I changed it now to another font. And that's about it. I haven't actually done much other than the font. And yeah, no, that's literally all I've changed. I had to update the numbers of, for example, the YouTube channel, because back then it was at 280 subscribers, I think. Now I just put 400 plus, because even though I've only got 360, I think by the time I start applying to these applications, I'm gonna have 400 plus. You know, no pressure or anything. But nah, obviously we're always growing. Some things, like, especially for example with YouTube and the number of views and stuff, that's always going to have to be changed and evolved, because literally basically every day I'm getting a new subscriber, so I need to keep this up to date. So I'm actually displaying my current up to date numbers so people can get an actual glimpse into what I'm doing. But otherwise, that's essentially it. There's nothing else that's new here. What I do want to do is add, obviously, the Bank of America Spring Week. But the only difference is, because it was virtual, it's difficult. So I don't know if I mentioned the previous video actually, but in the CV video. But the way I try and format it, the way that I've always been told to format it, is you say like I did X as measured by Y, and I achieved Z. So it's like instead of saying I stack shelves, you can say I kept the store looking presentable by stacking shelves, by stacking the rows 1 to 2. This was achieved by going to the stock room, sorting out X, Y, and Z. And it's like, essentially you want to make it more profound. So instead of you just saying exactly what you did, you say what you did, how you did it, and what you achieved by doing that. As you can see for the top line here, for senior resident, it says, I was recognised for setting up revision workshops, help other students with 30 plus signups. Also putting numbers to it, also putting some sort of scale and magnitude, so like, not only did I did this at the revision sessions, by 30 people signing up, is measured by, of course, a number of 30. So you want to have an extensive way, I suppose, of showcasing what you've actually done, instead of just saying, as I said, I stacked shelves, held revision workshops, what else is there? Yeah, ran events, sold things on eBay. Like, you want to say, I sold this much by by marketing, and I earned this much money. So you want to put values to it to make it sound more comprehensive. The next, and obviously I guess final thing for this video, is the cover letter. So because both mine are the same, in the last video I showed my Morgan Stanley one, and I think it was not Bloomberg. It would have been it was like an engineering one. I had a finance one and an engineering one side by side, but they're both following the same structure. I just changed a couple of words, well, not words, but I changed the paragraph order and stuff like that, and I changed what I write, so it's specific to that company. But fundamentally it's the same structure, it's the same format, and I always take the same approach when it comes to writing it. So we're going to look at my Morgan Stanley one here, my most recent finance cover letter from October last year. Obviously when I start applying soon, whenever I pass 400 subscribers, I'm going to have a new one. But yeah, let's look at this. So obviously the typical, like, I think this is quite long, to be fair. This is, now that I'm looking back at it with an older eye, I think this is very, very long. It should only be 4 or 5 paragraphs, I think, but that includes your introduction and your conclusion. So this final bit where I just say thanks for your consideration, that should be a bit longer, maybe talk like a proper conclusion, summing up who I am, why I want to work there, and why that role in particular. And the introduction should be a bit, maybe like 1 or 2 sentences longer, instead of just saying, I'm an engineering math student, pursuing a career in tech. But yeah, it'll be nice to, the rest of it isn't so bad, it's just a bit long, I think. the typical approach that I've been told to do, and what I tell people to do as well, people who ask me down in the comments and stuff, I say it should be, you start off with obviously introduction. You say why you want to work there, like as in the actual firm, why you want to work in that role. So like, you know, tech, IBD, whatever, and then why you, like why they should hire you, what makes you extra qualified. You can kind of change them around. Some people put like why you first, so you kind of create a narrative and a story and you go through it one by one. But I prefer to do it like why the role, and then, to be fair, like I've done it a bit differently with this one as well. Like I've got two for wider role because this is like a fintech, financial and tech. So I've got one for finance, one for tech in two paragraphs, which should kind of be one. And then I've got one whole paragraph for outside of academics and a one for inside academics. Nothing too wrong with that either. That's a decent approach. The only thing is, as I said, you should have one for that firm, like wider firm. And I haven't actually talked about it as much here. Like this is obviously, as I said, Morgan Stanley. But other than the facts that I've written, you know, their address and, you know, to their student recruitment team at Morgan Stanley, there's nothing specific here as to say like why specifically I'm applying to Morgan Stanley. And there's even nothing specifically about why I'm applying to the technology role. I mean, I say I've got an interest in tech, but I've not said, you know, we follow agile methodologies, we're building XYZ projects, working in a team, and things like that that will show that I've actually done my research and I'm actually interested in that role, as opposed to, you know, just being someone who likes tech and finance, who's just applying everywhere. So that's my own feedback back to myself. Maybe it's good that I went over this again so I can teach myself how to do it a bit better. But yeah, that's typically it. I mean, as I said, you want to have why the firm, why the role. And when it comes to each paragraph, I should probably explain a bit more as well. When it comes to like why the firm, again, you want to say specifically why, you know, Morgan Stanley or Bank of America or whatever, because of like XYZ event. Maybe you spoke to this person, you spoke to that person, you walked past their office in London and you thought it was nice or whatever it may be. The role is a bit more nuanced because obviously every bank, every engineering company, every I don't know, media company, they all have different variations of the same role. Like a software engineer at A might not be doing the same things as a software engineer at B. Or I'm trying to be like quote different roles, but obviously I don't know what other people do. But every company I imagine has got a different variation of the same role. So you want to be specific about why that. Like even of course from my own experience, I know Bank of America, the tech function there, they're very heavily aligned with like, the agile development methodologies, and not many other banks and firms follow that. It's obviously more of a tech focused thing. Like I know someone at Amazon who says a lot about agile as well, but it's, you want to know, as I said, the specifics for that one role, and then you kind of integrate that into your cover letter. And yeah, last one, of course, why you. That's obviously more personal to you. I think you should always include your outside of academics, extracurriculars, positions of leadership and stuff, and academics, so you can get a broader sense of like who you are. But try and focus on the USP, like the main reason why they should hire you as an individual, as opposed to the it's like a brief but more comprehensive look of your CV, but you want to pick like one or two key points that you think are very important and that sell you yourself the best, and then hone in on that when you're writing it. So you can see here I talk a lot about YouTube, entrepreneurship, eBay and stuff, and I don't really talk about like, the jobs I've done, because even though I've done cool jobs, I've got stuff to say about every single one of them. This I think sells me more like an entrepreneurial, like creative, know how to negotiate, resilient, and you want to talk about the specific things that apply. One, to a broader sense of, you know, one that shows a broader idea of who you are in a more USP, unique way. But also, two, you want to align it more specifically to the job description, because even though you can do that in the in your CV as well, it's going to be a bit more broad. Whereas cover letter, you have the full autonomy, the full power to hone in on specific things that will sell you a bit better. So yeah, that's essentially it. That's the feedback I would give to myself looking back at my CV and cover letter from yesteryear. I think the CV is a bit more, of course, up to date. This has literally been updated within the last few weeks, few days even. So this is more up to date. But yeah, as you can see, even since the last video, it was like a 20-minute, 25-minute CV cover letter reviews last year. Like for each 25-minute for CV, 25-minute for cover letter. That's like an hour sit down with myself going through it. But you can still see how there's even more. Like this has been 10 minutes. Still way more stuff on my mind. Still way more improvements you can implement over time. So if anything, you know, if there's anything you can take away from this video, it's that your CV, your cover letter, any of this stuff is never really complete. It can only be as good as you can make it at that period in time. But every day, you know, every week, every month, every year, you're going to learn more. You're going to have more things to say. You're going to have a better way of refining it. And that's kind of the joy. That's the joy of it, you know? Like, you might look back one day and be like, oh, the CV's not that great. But you have to realize that that's because back then you hadn't done what you've done now. And I guess the goal is to keep on doing more fun stuff until you've got a CV that's twice as good as mine. But yeah, I'll go briefly. I'll talk briefly, like very, very briefly, about the assessment centre at Bank of America, because obviously I haven't got my results yet, so I don't want to say too much. But that was 2 days. They were both virtual. I had a bunch of tests, not tests. I had a bunch of interviews, and we had a long sit down with talking to people and like hearing about what the firm has to offer, why you should work there, etc., etc. Both interviews, in my experience, for me, obviously everyone had their own different interviewers, so different questions were asked. But mine were competencies. I know a lot of people asked me about the Morgan Stanley video from last year, like how did the interview go, what were the questions. Again, I'm not going to say exactly what the questions were. I don't think I'm allowed to, and it will probably get me in trouble. But I will say it was competencies. I will say that most of the time when people say you should revise this, that, and the other questions on, like if you just Google like typical interview questions, those are generally the ones that do come up. I've always, like literally always, had a teamwork question, a leadership question. Sometimes for some firms last year, I've had like a recent news article. Like how does that influence the finance or the tech industries? What's going to be the biggest disruptor for finance or for tech? And it's like you just need to know. The best advice I can give is like knowing yourself, like knowing what you've been through. So if someone says, name a time when you worked in a team, you don't need to think about it. It should be like, okay, last week I was playing football with my friends and I was a captain and I did this and the other. Like you need to know yourself more than anything, because of course it's great to tie that back into the role, but if you don't know who you are and you don't know what you've done, that makes the rest of it so much harder. So yeah, fundamentally, interviews are calm. I gave you a quick rundown, a summary. I gave you a quick rundown on my CV and my cover letter, my current thoughts. When I do start applying, probably in the next video, I'm going to flash up the current and most up-to-date CV cover letter anyway, so you're going to be able to see that as we go through the process. As I said in the last video, we're going to go proper deep this year, so I can show you every single, as much as I can possibly show you of my process. But yeah, that's essentially it. That's the deep dive done for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any more questions, as always, don't be afraid to get at me down below in the comments or my DMs. I always reply to everyone. And yeah, hit up the podcast. 400 subscribers on this channel pending before I start applying. Drop a like if you enjoyed. Blah blah blah. All of that. All those shameless plugs. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.